The Impact Clinical Trials Cooperative is a UK-based initiative that's been funded by the blood cancer charities Leuka and Anthony Nolan, as well as by NHS And the aim of Impact is to address a real unmet need in stem cell transplantation, which is the rapid delivery of prospective randomized studies that are potentially practice changing. And that's a big requirement, not only in patients who undergo an autograft, but also in an allograft. In allogeneic transplantation, we're now able to find a suitable donor in almost all patients, and yet more than 50% of patients are destined to die either of transplant toxicity or disease relapse. Sometimes the number is higher. And yet fewer than 5% of patients enter prospective trials addressing questions of how we can improve transplant outcome. So there's clearly a real requirement to generate such data. And it's also increasingly clear with the advent of genomics and advances in transplant biology that prospective randomized studies also give huge potential insights into biological mechanisms of transplant, guiding perhaps future therapies. So the Impact initiative was launched last month by Sir John Bell and was featured 2 days ago as a key part of the UK life sciences sector offer. It's already attracted significant interest from global pharmaceutical companies who see it as an effective way of examining their agents. And there's clear, as I've outlined, patient benefit to be gained, firstly from accelerating access to novel therapies, but secondly from delivering practice-changing studies. The initiative is led by Professor David Marks from Bristol, and David is working with the Birmingham hub, which I lead, to create the capacity in 10 funded transplant centres which get dedicated research nurse support, and an additional 12 centres in the UK for 3 randomised trials in stem cell transplant every year for the next 4 years. And the first 3 trials have already been approved and are undergoing protocol finalisation with the aim of opening in Q2 2018. They are a randomized trial of the tolerability, safety and activity of donor lymphocyte infusion in patients who have received a alemtuzumab-based reduced intensity allograft. There is a second randomized trial looking at optimizing the conditioning regimen in older patients undergoing a reduced intensity transplant for acute lymphoblastic leukemia. And finally, there is a randomized trial in patients with high-risk acute myeloid leukemia that's aiming to ask important questions about the optimal conditioning regimen and also whether maintenance strategies post-transplant improve outcome. The aim in the next year is to develop a further 3 studies which are likely to focus predominantly on improving outcomes in patients autografted for myeloma or high-grade lymphoma. And there's an additional study looking at GVHD prophylaxis strategies in patients undergoing an unrelated transplant. So the initiative has taken about 6 years to develop. It's only possible because of the underpinning infrastructure developed by the NIHR within the UK, which make us a very competitive trial environment, but also the vision and generosity of the philanthropic organisations Leuka and Anthony Nolan and also NHS. It's got widespread support from the transplant community, and we see this as a pivotally important initiative as we work to improve the outcomes of transplant patients.